to get it done in maybe less than 9 months of deciding to go IPO, I think it was a Herculean task.
Were you guys ready for the kind of scrutiny, the quarterly reporting, and just the general discipline?
Ankit Mehta is the founder of ideaForge, a publicly listed defense tech company that he bootstrapped with his friends from college. In this episode, Satish speaks to Ankit about the patience it takes to build a deep tech company and what it means to turn long-term employees into shareholders.
What is an employee interested in, right? They're interested in the net value of what they're receiving. There are enough people in the organization who have made a lot of value from the stock options.
Has anything changed in terms of people wanting to work with you guys post Operation Sindoor? If a new, fresh engineer is looking out to join you guys, what are your expectations?
We desire to peel the layers, right? You cannot stay at the very surface layer of things and hope to build something new. We've always believed at ideaForge that if not us, then who will?
You are in a trifecta, as I would like to call. There's deep tech, there's defense, and you're already listed. I don't think I know of any example other than you guys that I can quote. Obviously, you have the EV guys who are also getting there, but they don't sell to defense. People who sell to defense know what it is. And a little bit of my this thing. I used to be a deep tech VC before, and I have no qualms in admitting that. I think that 2017 is when I got into deep tech investing, and I think that kind of coincided with all this ban on drones and little stuff that kind of happened. So we couldn't muster enough courage to go and invest. We did invest in another defense company, and they're still going forward. Not really hit top gear, but moving forward. So I kind of have experienced this from the outside, and my background is I'm a computer science and semiconductor engineer. So I've built chip companies before. So I kind of know the challenges here. But I would like to hear from you in terms of, and everybody knows your story, right? Thanks to the IPO in particular.
Yeah.
But even before that, and by the way, I applied as a retail investor in IPO and I didn't get it. And there's kind of a pointer, right? And I don't really feel bad about it, but the happy thing is for an IPO of for your company to subscribe close to 100 times. I think that was very, very amazing and cool. So hats off to all of you guys in terms of getting there. I think oversubscription by 100 times, no matter what the market situation is, I think is a supreme achievement. Kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank
so
you.
let's kind of quickly discuss a few things. Like I said, it is primarily about talent. So if you could kind of give us an overlay of what kind of team exists today in ideaForge, and how has the hiring journey been in trying to set up this team so far? So you guys are what, like 500, 600 people now?
Yeah, close to 500 plus people full time. Yeah.
Cool.
So I think if you look at the talent today, I think we have a mix of, the four of us who in a way started straight out of college and been doing this for the last 19 years as a business, 20 years since I quit my job, and 22 years since we built our first drone. So we've been at it for a very long time, more than 2 decades. So apart from us, I think what we've done is over the last, I would say, 6 to 7 years, we did a lot of hiring of people who we believe know and have experience of doing the things that we want to learn about. And I think that's the broad, you can say, benchmark for us, apart from the fact that over the last 3 years, I think we've been hiring from campus as well, because we realized through a lot of efforts that a lot of grounds up talent that is still hands-on in being able to do things and go deep enough in the physics of things is not easily or readily available even in the larger corporate world, because as a part of the larger scheme of things, people beyond a point, it's very difficult to find too many people who sort of can deal with the nuts and bolts while being able to build the aircraft as well. So what you need is people who have dealt with both and are willing to deal with both at the same time, because that's the challenge, right? You can't ignore the nut and bolt because it can unravel that plane, but at the same time, you have to still build a plane. You can't get lost in the nuts and bolts. So I think that kind of is not very linear as a journey insofar as finding engineering talent is concerned. Business talent, operations talent, it's still relatively more visible of where we can get that, but at the same time that's also not very linear as a journey, because how deep you are trying to do things or how much you do yourself in your process of building technology from grounds up, that to articulate that value to the end customer of that actually you're doing it yourself versus I bought this from an XYZ party who is already very cool.
Right.
I think there is a big difference of how to create value in that environment, right? So I think for us, it's been a journey across board. We've sort of figured out based on the experiences we had with our investors, with everybody, that the right thing to do is to get talent that has already done a few things so that you're not discovering everything. Your decision making, your confidence on what you're doing goes up much higher. But at the same time, there is enough talent that you have to build grounds up because people have never done these things in India.
But where did the first 20, 25 people come from? Was there a particular focus area? I mean, because I'm assuming, since you guys were all starting right out of college, you really didn't have access to a professional network, so to speak, right? So pretty much it must have come from, like you said, either some investors helping or from your existing college network and so on.
You see, I think there were two very good things about us. One was that we were doing cool things, and the second was that we were incubated at IIT Bombay. So we had a little bit of that stamp of sign at IIT Bombay. So people didn't think of us as trash, but at the same time, we were doing something so cool, right? So people did not even see something like that happening in the country. So I think it's a mix of both that got us our early talent. It wasn't a very experienced talent. We were the you can say fountain in the early days of pretty much everything that needed to be done, but we get enthusiastic people who were willing to take what we're building and sort of do things that we wanted them to do. So initially it was more like that. It wasn't like very high level talent because we were still building the product, right? We were not just we couldn't go out and sell something. You had to build a product first and then go and sell it. So that phase was like that. So yeah, I mean, finding the talent that can do things, specific things we want them to do, and then of course we would take their tests and we would make them actually do those things that we wanted them to do to have confidence on them. So we had those practical methods of assessing whether they are good enough or not. They weren't necessarily the most experienced talent in that one sense.
Okay. But I mean, were there a lot of hobbies that, people would just think around, do it individually, whom you could get on board?
Not too many. Funnily, not too many, because uh, we are ourselves not hobbyists. We actually started off by building autopilot or a data logger for people who were building hobby aircrafts in IIT Bombay, because they wanted to basically see if they can log the inertial parameters and then use those inertial parameters to convert it into an autopilot eventually. But we knew that the hardware we had built had that capability, so we made an autopilot within a year of that. So broadly, that's how the journey began of doing electronics work there. So hobby flying was more of a enabling the hobby flyer to mount our board and all of that. And then, of course, one of us learned it, like Ashish learned it, and he was excited about it. So he actually learned how to do that as well progressively and then get better at it. So we had to learn, but we weren't like original hobby flyers in that one sense.
So is that a career option now? Are drone pilots a thing, or it's kind of fizzled out? I know there was a time where there was a lot of excitement,
No, it's still a thing. It's still a thing. I think it's crossed the hype curve. Now it's in that maturity phase.
Okay. But it's something that people can take as a career seriously.
Yeah, I mean, see, it's not like a commercial pilot kind of a role, but it is a
Absolutely. Yeah.
important role nonetheless, handling an aviation asset.
Okay. Okay. So, so as the product development took place, and I'm sure this is, raising money from traditional investors would itself would have been a different story. I won't get in there because I'm sure we'll spend hours, if not days, together discussing that. But in terms of the identifying the market, because like you rightly said, you guys were doing a cool thing, and I'm sure the involvement in the movie and all that kind of really helped in terms of getting some attention to what you guys were doing as bright engineers. But when did you kind of I start identifying the market, and in particularly going towards government or defense, type of characteristics?
So what happened in 2008 is that we held IIT Bombay Secure Top Honors in a competition where we had built the hardware and software that was helping them participate in that competition. So they realized that there is a team in India that can actually build this technology grounds up. So the labs in India, the research labs, they asked us to give us our autopilots to them so that they could make their drone programs successful. So we basically started off with that. So in a way, we started off with the government lab kind of a setup to begin with.
Wow. Okay.
And then in 2008, when the attacks happened, we decided that we will serve the government because we felt that drones should be doing the job that helicopters were trying to do at that time. So that in a way was the genesis of us deciding of wanting to do work with these guys. So in 2009, we launched our first product in that year's Defense Expo. We were one of the key attractions because we were actually flying our drone in 2009 in the Def Expo in the Pragati Maidan in Delhi. So you can imagine, like in the heart of the
Yeah, that
country,
was
we were
very
actually
cool.
doing live
Yeah.
demos. It was really cool. So that was happening. So yeah, I mean, it sort of created a buzz, and then we had a lot of other events we were a part of. In those events, we were able to communicate the value of what we were doing. We did demonstrations to customers. Then in 2010, we sold our first drone after we competed with a US company who was building a different type of drone and our drone. So we got the better of the opportunity and we were able to deliver our first set of systems at that time.
Was DJI already beginning to grow by then?
It sort of, it was in parallel.
The focus on the market, once you identified that this is the market you're going to go after, one thing is obviously building a product for that market, which itself is hard, and it's still an engineering challenge, right? But when we hear stories of how difficult it's been to sell to that cohort, it's a completely new challenge, and especially for some of us who don't have that background, and also are largely engineers, you're focused on building and suddenly you're pushed into selling something into a what appears to be a very difficult and unfair world. So in terms of building the business team, did one of you founders end up leading that, or you got people from outside who are familiar with the mechanisms? And this is again one of the things that we struggled with our portfolio companies in the past, that even we ourselves had not done it before, didn't know what really to advise, other than saying, okay, let's talk to as many people as possible who have done this. And maybe through that process, we'll figure something out. So what was your journey of building the business team that could potentially face this government defense and that kind of a audience?
Yeah, so I think, see, anyone you would talk to at that time would only tell you all sorts of dark things about what it takes to do
Right.
business, right? So
Right.
it wasn't a very, like, asking people wasn't like making a lot of sense to us because we didn't want to get into some kind of a, you can say, conversation that we don't want to be a part of, right?
Right.
So we actually had another early co-founder of ours, Amardeep Singh. He used to lead our sales and marketing on this side. So His signature remark was that, everyone remembered him because he had like spiky hair. So, so a young boy with spiky hair would go around the country demonstrating the product. And, that was our only weapon. Like demonstrating our product was our only weapon in that one sense. And we just used to go and demonstrate. We would have done like hundreds and thousands of demonstrations to the end customer. Knowing that a product like a drone, without people seeing it work in their environment, without it giving them the vision of what does it mean to deploy something like this, anyways, we do not expect that we will sell. So being demonstration ready was very important. Going and demonstrating was very important. Being good about it was equally important. And then motivating the customer to buy was not that difficult because the customers loved what we had to offer because they'd never seen this perspective. It was so fresh, so new. And overall, I think they created the processes necessary to buy, but the process was in a way in government very simple. Like you will get a tender out. And herein lies the difficulty as well, that you're building something innovative. Nobody has done it earlier. And while all of this is happening, you are actually required to have 3 more people who sell the exact same stuff. Like, how does that happen, right? That doesn't happen. Like, if you are innovative, you will not find peers. And therefore,
Correct.
that was the deal for us. And that used to take a long time because then the process used to be that you would have to tender it thrice before you can award the contract or something like that. So all sorts of like sort of challenges were there in terms of getting the system adopted in the hands of the customer. But we were very clear from the very beginning that we are doing this because we really want to see a change on ground. We really want to see people use the product. We want them to be able to deploy it on a daily basis. So we used to go to our customers and tell them that if you bought something, and we used to sell at a premium because that was the only way we would have survived. We were bootstrapping the company from 2007 or 8 till 2015. So the only way to survive was to make our own money, and the only way we would sort of be feeling comfortable that people will buy more of our things was if they were using them. So we used to go to them and tell them that don't use it like party wear, use it like a uniform. Like you can't be doing patrolling because you found a thief. Like patrolling is done to a thief in action without them knowing that they will be caught in action. So, we had to go through a very deep motion of motivating the customers to use the technology because most of them, looking at its price, would just park it in a bag and it would just rest there. And, whenever somebody would come, oh, I have a drone, and then they will pull it out, shake the dust off and try to fly it. So it doesn't work like that. It's not meant to be kept in a cupboard. It's meant to be kept and flown outside. So, it took a lot to motivate them to use it, but I would say that there were many good customers who were really desirous of adopting new technology. Yes, it would have helped if it was more voluminous, there was more openness, they had the ability to buy innovation. If they had the ability to buy innovation, then they would have actually done a much better job in preempting what the world needs and we would have evolved faster. So many things would have happened, but then you can't wish all of that and still build a business. You build the business with what you have.
Correct. So 2015 is when you did the first round of financing, right?
First round of, you can say, institutional financing. As such, the first institutional check came in 2017. Before that, we did a pre-series A raise. And in 2008-9 timeframe, we raised a little bit of angel money as well.
Okay. And this was Qualcomm. When did Qualcomm come in?
2017.
2017. Okay. And in terms of people, before you got this institutional check, which I'm assuming was the largest tech check till that point in time, right? In terms of people, what, you guys were already 50, 60 people by then, or you were smaller?
I would say, yeah, I think close to about 35 to between 35 and 50, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. And post the funding, in terms of, since obviously one of the side effects of funding is you're at least on the map in terms of cash, you're probably able to pay better, for the incoming employees and so on. So, and I think your largest round also happened probably 3-4 years later from that point, right?
Yeah.
So pretty much 2017 to 20 was this early stage funding. But in terms of compensation planning and all that, did it help a lot, or was it kind of marginal? Was any other new tools you got to be able to, get people on board?
No, so we always had a ESOP pool, and we expanded that ESOP pool because we had exceeded the previous one with our co-founders. And then in when the investment came, we carved out a new stock option pool, and then we used the pool generously to get more talent.
And was there anything particular that was done for the ESOP? What, or did you have any guidance of, how to use it? This is the optimal way, suboptimal. And given that this is a deep tech company, and where it's going to take a little longer than normal for things to materialize, would any of that thinking come into your ESOP design itself?
Yeah, see, I think initially the approach that we had was a very, like, there were chunkier allocations to people, like one chunk, and it's given. Of course, everything is spaced in time, but the chunkier allocations were independent of the compensation levels. But I think now most of the allocations are linked to the compensation levels, and they are not chunky in the sense that they don't go as a chunk, they go as a part of the overall compensation package. So it's sort of different, but now for us, it's also cash. So there is a difference as well.
Yeah, but don't you think that's natural? Because early on, there's no compensation as such, right? You're probably paying what you can afford, and so if you make it a part of your cash, then your options also will suffer. So in terms of for somebody starting out new, a founder starting out new in this space, any advice you would give on how they would structure ESOPs, let's say for the first 25, 30 employees?
I think typically it can be chunky but backloaded, so that because everyone starts creating value over a period of time, so they should be chunky backloaded ideally. That's how it sort of is more productive for the long term value retention, because otherwise, it's a difficult cycle to sustain. And apart from that, I think overall compensation from an ESOP point of view is a important, you can say, threshold above the cash compensation. When you're private, it works better. When you're public, it is because everything is more liquid, so it is different. But when you're private, it creates that additional headroom that people have to cross. But people cross it also, so it's not like people don't cross it and they don't move out. So it's not like if people have to go, they won't go. They will. So it's not like something you can control beyond the point.
Yeah, because one of the things we've again copied from Silicon Valley is this 4-year vesting and so on. And that also has its origins in the days where companies would literally go public in 5-6 years, right? So the 4-year thing kind of made, some sense. Now, not only is that changing for general companies, but in deep tech companies, it's a lot more. So something like a backloaded thing is great advice, where the more time you stay in the company, the more value you've created, and thereby your rewards are commensurate with that, as well. But when it comes to hiring for a company like yours, where there are no peers, and obviously if you find a peer, it would probably be in terms of talent and capability. It could be similar, but they are kind of working in a very different compensation band. Imagine somebody working in a Flipkart at the same time, a really smart kid, but was at a very different compensation band. Did you ever have to hire from these places because you found smart people, there, irrespective of whether they knew your space or not, or it ended up, more of cherry picking based on exactly what you guys needed?
Mostly cherry picking. Like, we've never had that luxury that we will find a peer who will sort of do this in that one sense without training. So, you might as well hire for skill and not create disruption. And more often than not, even when we would talk to competitors, people were not going as deep in the physics as, we expect people to over here.
Yeah. So was hiring from, the Bharat Electronics, DRDO, was that even an option? Was it possible? Did you guys see any talent that you could pick from places like that?
Not really. We haven't. I think we did not try also, nor did we come across a profile that would be immediately standing out. But we have hired people who have had experience with DRDO, but they were with private industry subsequently. And some of them were very good technical talent, like people who understand the depth and all of that. So it was good experience there.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's where I was coming from, because one of the things, since we don't have a long history of building electronics, forget, mill grade, right? We don't even have a long history of doing consumer grade hardware and so on. So there are people out in these companies who are probably pretty talented as well, know the process and so on, but they are at a different, what do I say? They may not come across as your typical startup, hustler type employee, but quite workers, so to speak. So from your perspective, you couldn't find any peer of that kind at all.
Not, yeah. I mean, the thing is that also ultimately, what is a qualification, right? Ultimately, there is an outcome that you need to achieve. So you solve for the outcome. Like basically, we don't put anything on a very high pedestal. Things you put on a very high pedestal, they end up sort of dragging you more than leading you in that one sense. So we don't put necessarily things on a pedestal. We try to focus on getting the job done. And therefore, it's not like people can come and create some disproportionate value immediately.
So let's kind of little discuss the IPO journey, right? In the sense, when did you decide you have to list, and what preparations that were required in terms of setting up the organization, team, people, and so on and so forth? Because I'm very proud of the fact that you guys have done that, but at the same time, I would like to kind of know if there's any specific nuances that you had to do. And again, I hate the word playbooks in general, because it's almost everybody has their own and journey. And this is a term that VCs have invented as such. But I think if you are following a playbook, you're already behind, or you're one of the hundreds or millions. So just kind of walk me through the preparation towards listing, in terms of organization and what you had to do. And again, some of it will be comp related, but more in terms of trying to understand a holistic picture of what would a company like yours go through when they are preparing, to list.
So, it's really interesting. We used to talk about this expression that short of proving that we are actually alive, we had to prove everything else that was written on that paper. So essentially, so as a process, it is really brutal. Like they don't let you write a single word. Like if you write something like a simple word like we are the pioneers, then you have to somehow prove to them that we are the pioneers. Like, how do you prove something like that? So if your pitch is containing any hyperbole that you can't prove on paper, it will go out of the window the day you decide to list, because that is the kind of sanctity that is built into the process, that everything has to be corroborated, has to have third party and first party evidence. And there's no escaping. Like, you can't say that you're a BTech if you don't have your degree to show. It's as simple as that. So, it's a pretty, interesting process in that one sense. And now deciding to do it was a little bit of the fact that we had reached that inflection point in our journey where, to accelerate the next phase of growth, we needed capital. And, when we were weighing out our options with respect to what is the right way of raising capital, I think doing an IPO at that point in time given the investor base that we had, seemed like the right thing to do. And, like you often sort of highlighted during this conversation, that it was at that time a really good decision to be driving, because it ended up creating the kind of value we wanted to create in the market. So I think broadly, we realized that raising more of and more in private would have been more of the same. Like you said trifecta. I would add the word troublesome on that trifecta, because we were doing, and for a very long time, right? We were doing hardware when nobody was talking about hardware in India. We were doing defense when nobody was dreaming of
Doing
doing
defense.
defense in India. And
Defense.
then on top of that, we wanted to sort of take on the challenge of going public in all of this. So I think it was a brave challenge, but at the same time, we've always believed at IdeaForge that if not us, then who will? And because we can, I think we had that courage in us from the very beginning, that it's going to be a tough path, but we'll be able to live through that tough path, because that's how we are built. Like, we are built different in that one sense. We were when we were students as well.
So in terms of the organization, prepping up the organization, one is obviously the process and the things that comes with regulators and so on. But as an organization, were you guys ready for the kind of scrutiny, the quarterly, reporting, and just the general discipline around? Because one of the things with startups is you want to run as fast as possible, right? So and you end up, doing things that are probably not as orderly as somebody as a listed company, or where public investors are around, would find it acceptable. So what changed in team dynamics? Like, I don't know if you guys had a CFO by then, because one of the things that most people look at is, hey, let's first get a CFO on board. Let's figure these things out and so on. So just kind of help us understand that bit.
See, I think there are two interesting things that happen when you raise external capital. Particularly when you raise institutional capital, a lot of your systems become much better, because every time they come in, they do diligence on you, they show you the mirror of where you are in terms of your compliances, your whatever, right? So we had gone through 2-3 rounds of that, so that sort of set us up on a reasonable pedestal by default. So in a way, we used to invite the diligence, because it used to help us fix what we need to fix as an organization, so that you don't live with a very, very deep deficit of compliance in that one sense, particularly ROC and stuff like that. So
Right.
that in a way was the attitude. In a way, you can imagine, like, our attitude was that we don't look at compliance and some of these things as a burden. We look at them as opportunities to, feel more confident about where we are and what we are doing. And on top of that, I think, full marks and credit to the team. Actually, the team, my co-founder Vipul, he first of all, as we did the balance of trade, we felt that, he's the right person to lead the charge as an organization, as a CFO, because he was already doing that, not in that named role earlier. So therefore, we decided that we will, Christian him as the CFO, and he was very gracious to take up that charge, because it comes with a lot of responsibility as well. On top of that, I think that operational mindset was there in the team, and it's just purely the team, like the team that was there and is still there. I think it's just their ability to understand the responsibility of going public and just doing the right things for that responsibility. I think that's the more important part for us. So I think they did a good job. I would say, like, during IPO also, I think the amount of time and effort it takes to get you through that process, it is grueling, and the timeline set for ourselves was also aggressive, and to get it done in maybe less than 9 months of deciding to go IPO, I think it was a Herculean task, but they did it, and all of that while restating the financials, because they were in they were in a different method earlier, and they had to come to Ind AS, and they were in gap earlier. So a lot of that also had to happen in between. So it's a lot of chaos. It's a magic that they pulled it off and fixed what needed to be fixed in this time frame, and it's all the team. I think very importantly, the fact that one of my dearest co-founders stepped up to take the charge. I think it helped a lot.
No, this is a great example, because normally what we hear from IPO ready companies is, get a team who's taken companies public before, because they know the process, they know how to deal with all of this and so on. But in your case, not only somebody from the founding team took that role, something that probably would have been, and Vipul is also an IIT Mumbai grad, right? Was he part of?
No,
Okay.
no. He's actually a childhood friend of mine who did
Okay.
his commerce and EA. So no, he is not from a technical background at all.
Okay. But in terms of so it's this kind of a great example. Maybe you guys should talk about it, more, or just write about it, because one of the key things is most companies we have seen have literally gone through a middle management overall, right? When you're getting prepared for listing, there's so many things. One is obviously the fear of the unknown, and the second is depending on who is on your cap table, and their views and their experiences in the past shape a lot of things in terms of getting a new team on board, to go public. So the fact that you didn't have to change and you found a founder anchor was, quite amazing. So I think you guys should write about it more often. A lot of things to learn, from that. So one of the key things, one of the important things in the, in the field we are in is listing is considered a massive, economic event, right? So in terms of people who've been with the company, who had stock options and so on and so forth. And I still remember for you guys, the day of the listing, the stock flew 100% or something very close to 100%. Yeah. By the way, I eventually,
93%.
I eventually bought probably 6-7 months later. I was traveling, it just slipped my mind. Then sometimes later I ended up buying, and I'm proud to say I'm still a shareholder. So in terms of the economic outcome for people who've been with the company, just kind of walk us through that. I know people would have, who've stayed for long would have probably benefited. But are there any stories of serious wealth generation for employees who've been with the company for a long time?
Yeah, I think, that's true. I mean, there are enough people in the organization who have made a lot of value from the stock options that they had when we were unlisted till the time we got listed. So I think that was something which we were always in a way conscious of, that ultimately when it becomes real, people should really realize the worth of what we are doing, and I think they did. So that ways, enough number of people got disproportionate amount of wealth as compared to what they would have been able to make otherwise. So that has been a reality of that process, and I think I won't sort of be able to give you a specific name, but many long-term employees, including people who were, people who help us with logistics and with shop floor and people. I mean, all of them who were long-term with us, they received decent benefit out of the option in the company.
No, that is fantastic to know. But in terms of and what would typically be the average age of these employees? And I'm not kind of looking at specifically people who made a large amount of wealth and so on, but typically they must be in their sub 30s, right?
Yeah, quite a few of them in their 30s, some of them maybe in their 20s also. Because see, we used to hire a lot of young talent as well, and we had a program where we give stock options to employees of a certain vintage in the company, irrespective of their, you can say, position. So that helped a lot of people who were with us from a long term to create a bit of wealth for themselves.
So how has that policy changed post listing? Do you continue to, now that, like you rightly said in the beginning, it's now stock is liquid, and typically once you are listed, there are everyday ups and downs in terms of the stock market pricing, so you don't want people to be hooked on to what is the price today, especially when the company is growing. But typically, has the policies changed post listing, and how do people look at now stock options versus before you guys got listed?
I don't think we have changed the policy substantially since then. I think it's very similar. And in fact, I get calls from people in the industry saying that, how are you doing it? A lot of people are pointing us to you. So, yeah, I think overall it's been fine. I think we got onto the right track after some unlocks that happened with some of our, you can say, advisors, mentors, investors. So we got onto the right track earlier. That has helped us sustain the method.
But like the questions you've been getting, is there anything that you would want to, or you can share in terms of what are some of the things that people should look as an absolute best policy, saying, okay, this is something that we found very helpful for the employees and acceptable to the company and the investors at large? Would there be like one or two things in terms of the policy design you would recommend post listing?
So I think there are 2-3 things that I have seen people do, right? A lot of times people, in the end, what is an employee interested in, right? They're interested in the net value of what they're receiving, not in necessarily the number of shares or the price of the shares. Beyond a point, they're not super keen on that. Like, irrespective of the price of the shares, they would want to get a certain economic benefit out of the number of shares they receive. So I think we've just focused on that economic benefit part of it rather than focusing on the number of shares. And so, I mean, that just mean a little bit more helpful, because in the end, outcome is the same. Whatever you do, it's just more complicated that ways. And in the net, there are benefits of doing that also. It's not like I'm rejecting the benefits of doing that, but there are benefits of doing this. Now, there are certain cycles in the market where one shows off poorly as compared to the other, and it's just a matter of the market cycles as well.
But generally, in terms of because post listing, the pricing transparency is something that's kind of very visible, right? So in terms of trying to even peg, for example, there are times when somebody joins absolutely when the stock is at its peak, but then the stock may go down before it comes back up again. So like, I mean, even I can take a retail example as a stock market investor. If you look at between 2008 and 2018, Reliance Industries share price didn't change at all. But you can't say that the value didn't go up. The value went up massively. But as a retail industries, I looked at, hey, 10 years I'm holding on to this stock, nothing is moved. So you run the risk of people seeing this more as a portfolio allocation rather than a employee compensation thing. So that's why I was trying to a little press on, do you guys see anything in terms of, from that perspective, has anything changed when the policy is set up post listing?
See, this is the only part of the wealth that you are creating that is not bought out. Everything else you have to buy into first. You have to take that conscious risk. Here, your time is being traded for that risk. So there is a little bit of, you can say, a difference in a portfolio versus, stock option. And I think it's an important distinction that at some point in time in the future, it may become like it's a part of the portfolio, but typically, in my opinion, it is usually more disproportionate than that. And it is definitely more substantial than what you can put in a portfolio. So one, your hard cash is going, and in the other, you are earning it as a part of your sweat, being a part of a business or an entity. So I think there is a fundamental difference, and that fundamental difference, it needs to be appreciated. And see, you will always find people who will treat it the way they will treat it. There will be a lot of people who will underappreciate what they receive, and there will be a lot of people who overappreciate what they receive. So that is always going to be the case. Like, you can't please everybody in any case. So beyond a point, you have to do the right thing for yourself and the organization and for the employee. And I mean, in the end, you will still find people who love it and people who hate it. Like, irrespective of what you do, that's the risk you run, and that's the boon and the bane of entrepreneurship. You have the power to make the decision, but you have to sort of bear with the hatred that comes with it.
So what next for the company in terms of right now? Are most of the employees based out of Mumbai? Or you're spread across? And I'm sure the market-facing employees would probably be all over. But what next in terms of new products? Anything looking at in terms of hiring people, setting up stuff outside, and bringing employees, new different types of employees on board?
So, in terms of locations, we have our largest strength in Mumbai, appropriately so. Then we have developmental centers in Bangalore, and we also have a sales office in Delhi. So, Delhi is our largest concentration of sales talent, and Mumbai and Bangalore continue to be both operations, and Bangalore is largely developmental talent right now. In terms of multi-country, that part is starting, but we are expanding in it a little bit more judiciously. We are trying to see if we can partner with people and drive that a little bit better, so that we don't have to invest our own cash everywhere in that one sense. So there's a little bit of that which is playing around, and we are seeing traction on that side as well. And a lot of effort is going on in sort of creating this portfolio of options for the customer that is conducive to the environment that they're going to operate in. So there is a portfolio of technologies you have to build. Those technologies have to survive in the user's environment. They have to deliver the end value to the end user. That value is for which they are operating the system. And then you have to deliver that value with different types of systems, and they have to work together as a solution. So, for example, in defense, you need to build a drone that can go and find a target, and then you need another asset that takes the location of the target and is going to go and neutralize the target. Now, neutralizing the target may have, if it's a moving target, you need continuous information exchange between the drone that is seeing the object versus the drone that is going to be attacking the object. So there is a lot of nuance and various technical areas, and in all of this you have to operate in an environment where the adversary may be trying to soft kill your system and trying to jam you, trying to spoof you, trying to make you go haywire. All of that you have to resist, and you have to find a solution in that entire context. So it entirely depends on what is the right way of using a system in the context in which the user envisages their challenge to lie. And that development process is going. Earlier we were not doing anything to do with offensive systems. Now we have decided that we will have to do it, and we should do it, because there is a context in which its use is essential for the future of warfare and for the self-defense of a country. So therefore, we are expanding our portfolio of activities. So, yeah, I mean, we are doing 4 large platforms. We have a software solutions vertical as well. And all of these work very seamlessly together to give a full solution to the end customer.
Cool. And again, I had to ask this question. Has anything changed in terms of people wanting to work with you guys post Operation Sindoor? Do you see a lot of inbound and people recognize that there's something that people want to do it for the country, or in general want to understand, where they can help and so on? Has anything changed at all from that perspective?
Yeah, I think, see, overall, being public itself helps a lot. And in any scenario where your visibility goes up, you see increase in inbound. So that's true. Like more consciousness is there about your effort, the more people would want to contribute to that effort. And I think if that effort is contributing to the nation or to the global environment, I think we do see a lot of positive motion in that direction.
So finally, Ankit, if a new fresh engineer is looking out to join you guys, what are your expectations? What would you look for? I won't say a fresh grad, but somebody who is just beginning their career. If they want to work for IdeaForge, what would you say? Okay, these are the characteristics that I want to see in this young kid before bringing them on board.
See, I think for us, 2-3 things are very, very important. The ability to build from first principles is very important. The experience of failing while doing something is very important. And the desire to contribute positively and the desire and that restlessness is very, very critical. And last but not the least, I think a lot gets driven when you can hold a vision. Like you should not be somebody who is needing to be told what to do next. You need to construct a vision from what is being shared, discussed, or the common goal is. And you have to drive your next steps from trying to achieve that vision. I think if you can do that, you can immensely and contribute without any supervision. And I think that's the best place for any organization where people who come together, work together, can contribute without needing specific instructions. I think that in an early career stage can be a boon that that cannot be underestimated.
I've run out of questions. If there's something that you think would add value, we can talk about that. Is there anything that you think would be specific to you guys, or again specific to somebody getting into this industry? Any feedback, any tips would kind of help them?
I think what is very clear in a lot of industries that I believe are going to be very critical for the country going forward is the desire to peel the layers, right? You cannot stay at the very surface layer of things and hope to build something new. You will build a suboptimal version of what the world can build because you haven't come up with that layer. Only when you peel the layers, when you are desirous of doing something better or different from what the world has done, is when you break new grounds. And I think this is a phase where India has to become a product nation. India has to have the ability to have sovereign control over technology. So not accepting black boxes, going deep enough, not everything is your responsibility, but going as deep as you can within what your responsibility sphere is, I think is very, very important. So I increasingly feel that it's an amazing time for India. It's an amazing time to build technology in India. And it's a very important time for that technology to be something that we are building from our own hands and not necessarily what we use from what others have given us.
Hey, fantastic, Ankit. Thanks so much.